to help me sing on horse and everything. Everything wrong and everything good. Friends, please. Okay, where's three?
You got more of them coming.
Where's Charlotte?
We need 3 seats.
Okay.
All right.
We have one more seat?
Charlotte, why not? You'll make it, Holly. My sister-in-law. Okay, let me tell you. You know, there's a teaching of the Holy Baal Shem Tov, and I think I mentioned that when you were here. He was like one of the great luminaries 250 years ago. He said before the end of days, before the fixing of the world, something will happen. The good will become better, and the bad will become better. You know, more bad, more evil. You see, the problem with the world is that there's a lot of evil in the world, but evil is only bad because it's not showing, right? When someone's showing his evil, it's already good, right? So you have to be careful, right? Listen, there's a knife. I'm not going to stick it in my heart because I know it's a knife. I think it's a candy. I might play around with it. See, the salvation of the world is that evil will slowly come out. Yes, I'm evil, right? But the second good thing is that the good will really become good. See, even the good people are not 100% good. They're not showing their goodness. So it was clear to me, after the Second World War, that when evil really showed its evil, right? I mean, there was never a time in history when the murders of the world came out in the open. I was killing. I mean, this is out compassion. Without compassion. No heart, no soul. So what's missing now that the good people should show their goodness, right? But the good people are a little bit afraid to show their goodness. So, I want you to know, it's too loud, Regan. I read it. Is it good this way?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, good. I don't know when it was clear in my heart, but I never had people going to Poland. And I was begging them, please, get me a connection when I go back to Poland, because I gotta be there. And you know, a lot of people go to Poland just to look for the graves, to look for the bad thing, right? But this is not my business. You know, maybe the world needs someone to look for the bad also. I have to tell you, I once, you know, the good old hippie days, you know, the hippies would drive without license, without anything. And you wouldn't even know maybe the car is stolen, you don't know. Anyway, one of those hippolach picks me up, and he's driving me to a wedding. Naturally, a hippie doesn't care about the red light, green light, it's beyond them, you know. Anyway, so he's passing a red light, and a policeman is there. Policeman says, show me your license. Like says someone, do you still wear diapers? You know, I mean, it's below his dignity even to have license. I say, listen, you have license or not? Show it to him and tell him, didn't have license. So he says, I have my license at home. And he lives, let's say, in Iowa City, right? The policeman was really very gracious, and it's a joke. The policeman said, okay, you can make a phone call, I can give you that much. And in the meantime, I'm talking to the policeman. And he says to me, you see the difference between a rabbi and a policeman? A policeman has to look for the bad, and a rabbi should look for the good. And I'll tell you something else. The Talmud says, when everybody says this person is bad, it's already a lie. Can't be. Anyway, you know, in Kabbalistic terms, it's called Seder Ishtalshlus, you know, the way it happened, it's too long to go into it. But 3 years ago was one of the greatest, absolutely greatest concert tours of my life. Came to Poland, and see, the good people in Poland are afraid to tell us that they're good. They're not coming out in the open. So I was on television right when we arrived, and they asked me, what brings you to Poland? So I said, first of all, I shared it already with the council, that my great-great-grandfather was the chief rabbi in Krakow, and the other chief rabbi the Bach, and the other holy chief rabbi of Lemberg, the Taz, and so on. But this is one part. The second important part is, I absolutely came to Poland absolutely to embrace and to kiss every person in Poland. I want you to know, the next morning I woke up early, and I'm sure you know, Warsaw, there's Hotel Europejska, and 2 blocks from it is Hotel Victoria, which is really a good hotel. Stupidly, we stayed in the not so good hotel, this time it's better. So I woke up early and I really wanted to drink some coffee, and they tell me the coffee shop in the Victoria is open. We go through the park. Every person I saw asked me, like in broken English, are you the person on the television? Are you kissing? I'm walking into the coffee shop, and the mamas threw themselves at me, all the waitresses, and they told me as long as I'm in Poland, I should come there and drink coffee for free. And the concerts were not from this world. Not from this world. You know, Rav Nachman says, wherever there is destruction, if you believe you can destroy, oh, why don't you believe you can rebuild also? Has to be. Anyway, it took me 3 years again to, I'm just begging people, you know, because I'm just an individual, don't have this connection. You know what is the establishment sending every week somebody else to Poland, but so, sitting there, coming back. And I have the privilege of really meeting the people, especially the young people. So anyway, the greatest miracle happened, we came back, and all the holy brothers here and sisters can testify. It was awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I have to tell you, you know, I had my list. My first council was in Krakow, so I had the list of young people who gave me their names. So I'm arriving in Krakow, I call up the first number. Young lady, her mother's on the phone. I says, can I talk to your daughter? She says, no, she's busy now, she's going to Shlomo Carlebach's concert. You know? I said, hey, it's not so simple, you know? And, you know, it was not, I don't want to say anything bad. I'm giving a concert in America. I mean, it's sweet, right? It's not outpouring of the heart like Yom Kippur. It's not like, you know, imagine someone in New York walking on the street, he's thirsty, you give him a Coke. Or someone in the desert dying for water. It's awesome. Awesome. I mean, awesome is not the word. I want you to know it's, without saying anything bad. But, you know, sometimes I think to myself, maybe I'm really overdoing it. Maybe I'm crazy. I mean, I'm sure I have a therapist here. Would you say I'm crazy? I hope I am. Anyway, in Lublin, if you know, it's the grave of the Sea of Lublin, like the Holy of Holiest. The Holy of Holiest. 200 years ago. And been coming out, right? And there were also 3 people from New York. Okay, I'm coming out, and I see a lot of young people standing there. And this is along your alley. They tell me that they're from the Catholic University in Lublin. I'm telling you, I meet a lot of young people in New York say, hello, you know, sweet. It was more than sweet. It was absolutely a meeting of souls. Unbelievable. And the top student there tells me he's getting his doctorate in writing about the Jews in Lublin. He spoke German, so I could talk to him. It was not a meeting that moment, it was like a meeting 1,000 years before and 1,000 years after. It was gewaltig, and Shomer was saying goodbye to them. Okay, 5 minutes later, the 3 people from New York came out, you know. They saw those students standing there and then, you know, walked away. And it was, at that moment, I watched the eyes of those students, you know. It was so sad, you know. So, Master of the world, how could I ever thank you? Not only for showing me the good side, how bad it is when people walk away. Those 3 people could have had 12 best friends, right on the spot, right? Right on the spot. I want you to know, friends, as far as I'm concerned, we have the privilege of seeing thousands of people in Poland. The souls of fire. So good and so sweet. And I would imagine I'd come up, hopefully stay in under 150 years, I'd come up to heaven, you know, and they would show me those 10 students in Krakow, in Lublin, and they would say, why did you become their friend? What will I answer? You know what the holiness of a servant of God is? As much as you're connected to the past and to the future, you don't let the past ruin the present. Because the Holy Baal Shem Tov says the greatest slave driver in our life is the past. The past is absolutely the present. Between friends, that's they had a fight, right? So why do you krach about the past all the time? You know what the holiness of Yom Kippur is? What keeps us alive? Yom Kippur. One day a year, guys, look and forget what you did last year. Forget it. And I want to share with my holy friends something unbelievable. You know, at the end of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, we say the evening prayer, and right away we say, forgive me, God, if I sinned. So the man to the Walker, you know, Walker, I'm sure you remember the city Walker, little city there. It's a little city on the map, but a great city in heaven. He says, I mean, how much sinning can you put in? You just had Yom Kippur, and the evening service is about 2 seconds later. So how much sinning can you do? And when you're asking again for forgiveness, it's a little bit too much, right? So he says, I'm asking God for forgiveness, but I don't really believe that he forgave me. You know, it's not only we have trouble forgiving, we have trouble believing that somebody forgives us. When I do wrong to somebody, I'm always saying, no. And you know, I'm not talking about forgiving now, the world, what they did to us. It's not for me to do. Because even God can forgive it, but something else. But the past standing in the way. So, I'm telling you the truth as much as my feet are here. Last night we had a little bit of a goodbye celebration. And the most unbelievable thing was, I have to share with you, when, sad enough, I didn't make it to Majdanek this time, didn't have the strength, I just went to Lublin. Anyway, so, how many kids are from Germany? I think 18 or 19 or 20. There's a few teachers. And our Rebbe, my friends, saw those kids coming out. They were crying, these kids. They had no idea what was going on. So they invited them to come to my goodbye party. They're the cutest kids in the world. Gewalt, where they're dancing with us. Gewalt, where they're pouring out their hearts. Once you know, there was one little Polish girl, I'll never forget her, right? Girl of 7. She was standing there, clapping like this. I would have adopted her right on the spot, you know? I mean, cute is not the word, and beautiful is not the word. Beyond everything. I said to the person next to me, if I only came because of this little girl, right? What do I know? On the way back, I told some of my friends, you know, Western Union is sending out telegrams. Have you ever seen when they have a telegram which is not so important, they send an idiot, and if it's very important, they send somebody better? No. The deliverer is unimportant, right? So I said, we all are idiots, but the telegram we delivered was so important. Unbelievable telegram. And the telegram read, I, the master of the world, declare that the world is getting better every second. Every second. I mean, it's not to be believed, right? You know what our generation saw? Our generation saw so much destruction and unbelievable rebuilding. I have to share, but most of you know my story, so forgive me. I want to share with my holy guests here. You know, the bishop of Hannover saw me once at a concert, long story. So he sent a message to me that the Protestant church has it's called Kirchentag, Day of the Church, every 2 years. This goes on since the 14th century. And they never invited a Jew, you know, why should they, you know, it's a religious day. He says, I would like one time a Jew should come. He invited me. And I have to tell you the whole story, make it very fast. I don't want to say anything bad, but you know, the establishment, whenever they have to do something, they always do it a day later, right? I called up the Jewish community in Hannover, and I told them I'm playing on that day for the Protestant church. It gave me an orchestra, you know, there's thousands of kids. It's not a million, 10 people are there. Anyway, naturally they forgot. I arrived in the morning in New York, in Hannover, and the whole city is fire. And anyway, I'm supposed to play 6 o'clock. My audience is approximately 10,000 young Germans. There was only one more Jew who by mistake passed by, looked at me and walked away. Heartbreaking, you know, I'm not knocking him, but anyway, forget it. The bishop is talking, and forgive me, the bishop is talking, and that one person paid attention to him. They're sitting there, 10,000 kids with beer, telling each other dirty jokes and laughing like crazy. And I was supposed to go on after him. I have a little guitar, then 10,000 kids, it's on the marketplace in Hannover. Say, what I need is it'll be the biggest joke in the world, right? All I need, I'll stand on stage with my guitar, banging a little bit. And the boy should yell, dirty Jew, get off. That's all I need. That's all I need. I want you to know something, you know? Mama, I prayed very hard for the Russian. I'm not standing here for me. I'm standing here in the name of all of Israel. Getting on the stage, and I said, you know, I speak German perfect. My dearest brothers and sisters, I'm bringing you blessings of love from the holy city, Jerusalem. They were like bitten by a snake. They got up like crazy, and they came running on stage. 10,000 kids. You know, it was so close that they couldn't even play the guitar. And I had time from 6 to 8. And since I know the Germans, I finish exactly 8. I didn't want them to say that the Jews are not punctual. Anyway, although I mean, yeah, I'm playing it. You know what I want to tell you is, thousands of kids. It was like 10 Yom Kippurs. It was 10 Yom Kippurs. I want to share this with you. Maybe some of you didn't hear it yet. And you know you don't sing every second, right? And for a few minutes, it was silent. And those kids were so close to me. Suddenly at the end, there's a young man, maybe 20, 22, raises his hand. I say, what do you want to tell me? It's heavy. You have to listen till the end. He says to me, do you know that my grandfather killed your grandfather? And it's heavy. Very heavy. I held out my hand, and it says, Holy Brother, come here fast. He says, can you imagine how the world is getting better every second? That my grandfather and your grandfather, not so good. And you and I are the best friends in the world. I want you to know when he said, my grandfather killed your grandfather, his sobbing was to high heaven. You see what it is? The world is getting better. the world is getting better. And I didn't ask anybody who's your father, who's your grandfather, your great-grandfather. What do I know? They only know that all those kids who were with us were so beautiful. And if God forbid we neglect them, right now we Jewish people have a chance to make friends with thousands of young people. Thousands. And maybe the whole world. And we have to take something else. When I was standing there and singing with those kids, I didn't remember the past at all. It was just paradise. Right? Normally it was paradise. You know what paradise is? That everything is good. You see, hell also admits that few things are good. But in hell, it's a little bad, a little bit good. Paradise is only good. So, basically I came to tell you, and all of us, we cannot tell each other enough. We need new eyes for the world. We need new eyes for the world. You know, we always tell somebody else to change. We have to change us. We need a new pair of glasses. We need, you know why? We are very far-sighted, but not to the future, to the past. You see, there's everything. In the meantime, I want to see what's in front of me. And, you know, last night it was awesome. It was awesome. Who wants to say a few words about yesterday? So you want to say some holy words? Yeah?
I hope, Tony, that Shlomo will not go on and speak a lot because he was taking away a lot of my stories. But I'll tell you the truth, one thing. I was looking, as I was reviewing the videos that I took at the Polish trip, and there was a little kid of about 8, 9 years old. And he was on stage with Shlomo. And I focused the video on him. The kid looked almost from heaven. I mean, his eyes like that. And Shlomo had interpreter. So Shlomo was saying a few words, and interpreter. You should see this kid's eye. Look at Shlomo, look interpreter. Look at Shlomo, look interpreter. He was so taken. So I think the next trip, Shlomo, it shouldn't be for the adults. I think you should gather all the kids in Poland. And you should give the counsel to kids from school. Because they're so taken with you, Mamash. Unbelievable. There was a lot of impressions over there. And still, we just now, I would say we digest it and sink into us. One of the things amazing was that after about 5, 6 days being in Poland is that I did not feel yet Poland. It's that I'm in Poland. It was like, flying, going from one place to the next one. It happened on the day when we had day off. And we walked around in the streets of Warsaw and in the park and suddenly realized that I'm in Poland. I was meeting people passing by, and I was watching them, and I said, how could people talk about hating, some people where it happened, those tragedies over there? Because it was unbelievable. I felt like I'm between my brothers. Mamish was such a connection, like people, no way to be otherwise feeling. Very connected to people over there. Shlomo was talking about Majdanek, that you were not there, but I was there. And I saw those kids coming out from Majdanek. I have to tell you, Majdanek is the only concentration camp that it's intact. Because every other concentration camp, the Germans tried to wipe it off the face of the earth. They destroyed all the buildings, destroyed everything, so there would be no evidence of what happened, what they did. I could tell you how far they went to do that, to cover up their crimes and what they did then. They had lists of the people that were in the camps, and next to each person was written the cause for why he died. So one is dysentery, one is this kind of sickness, one a heart attack, one all kind of reasons, medical reasons. But nobody died for anything else, just for medical reasons, you know. It was amazing. They had charts written out to cover up what they did. But Majdanek was complete camp that did not have a chance to alter it because it was the first camp that was conquered by the Russians. And I think about Dutch, I don't know who it was. And it stayed just like that. So nothing was touched over there. You could see 800,000 pair of shoes. You see the caps of the prisoners, their clothes, the beds they slept in, and the furnaces. The furnaces they burned. So when those people, those kids came out from there, they were crying unbelievably. And that amazing thing is when they came at night, we invited them, came at night to the concert, they were dancing, they were so glowing, they were so taken. So I think, Shlomo, you should be opening up over there in Poland, the second, satellite of, there should be more often over there. You need to open up friendship to the world. Thank you.
Yesterday we were in Majdanek, and it's hard to believe that we're here today because it was the deepest depths of hell and horror. And I remember walking out of the camp. I didn't see the German kids crying. I saw them as we went through the camp in different parts. But I said to Joni, who was also on the trip with us, I said, I don't know, I don't think I could ever look at another German again. I can't understand how this kind of bestiality and animal nature was so there and so without any kind of feeling. How could I ever look at a German? And that night, we had the concert in the restaurant, and I came in a few minutes late, and I sat down next to some German kids, and other German kids around me, and we're looking and we're smiling as Shlomo was talking and singing and everything. And it was like the barriers just broke down because person to person is so different from an image or an impression, an idea. And we hugged and we kissed, and you could see them just glowing. And afterwards, one of the girls said to me, we came out of Majdanek, I had such a stone on my heart. She said he removed it, he took it away. And they're asking him to come, see them, be with them, so maybe it's opening another door, because that's really why we went, and as Shlomo had said, because we felt it was time to do a healing, and of all places, Poland is the place to do that healing. And we felt it very deeply. I had an interesting experience the first night I was there in Krakow. I sat down next to a young girl and her mother. And the girl had been at one of Shlomo's concerts 3 years ago, and she just was so connected to him. And she said that after he left, she started to search all of her family records, searching, hoping that she would find some Jewish relation. And she told me very sadly and disappointedly, I couldn't find anybody. And I don't understand why I'm so connected. So I said it doesn't make any difference why, just to be there. And then she was thrilled because Shlomo remembered who she was, and then she had written him a letter during the year, because God bless Shlomo, he remembers people, and he's so connected to people, it's wonderful. So they're just little impressions along the way. It was a privilege, a real privilege to be with you, Shlomo. and to be a part of that healing that took place, because as we walked into each concert, you can see the withdrawn sadness and pain in the eyes of a lot of the young people. And then they began to clap. But we were told that clapping, for European countries is about all they'll do. They won't participate anymore. It's just not their way of doing things. But of course, by the end of the concert, they were up on stage clapping and singing and glowing. I mean, you could see their eyes just lit up. They were afire. And there were Jews and non-Jews, and Jews who wanted to be Jewish, and non-Jews who wanted to be Jewish, and everybody who wanted to be connected to that love and warmth and healing feeling that was in the air every moment. And it was such a privilege, and thank you, Shlomo.
It was an incredible experience, and it was an experience of redemption, and it was just a trip of opposites, and how they all come together, male, female, young, old, Jewish, non-Jewish, Polish, American, and it was for me one of the most transformational experiences that I had, and that was just for 4 days. I was only there part of the time, and it was absolutely tremendous to see what change could occur in a second. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. For me, when I came there, I was not quite sure what to expect. And the truth was, I found out what the trip was about by the middle of the trip. And this is what you're all about, Shlomo, which is the opening of the heart. The opening of the heart. And when I first came, there was not such an opening of my heart. And my first impression and my first actual incident when I first came to Poland in the airport was not a positive experience. Being Jewish, there's just an incident that happened that kind of reinforced the closing of my heart. And then as the days went on, and as I saw and experienced the concert, the same kinds of things Amy was saying, first, the people were very kind of awkward and not sure about joining, and then by the end, they were transformed. And what happened is exactly what you do all the time, Shlomo, is the opening of the heart. And people's hearts were opened by the end of the concert. And when I say it didn't become clear to me, this idea, till kind of the middle, actually, almost toward the end, when I went to Majdanek, and I shared this thought with a couple of people. I was particularly struck by Majdanek, probably more than most of the other things on the trip. And one of the things that became clear, they have photographs of Germans standing over Jews that they killed and laughing. The Germans were laughing, the officers. And all of a sudden, I was just struck by that image. How could they do that? And it was clear to me the only way they could do that was if their hearts were completely closed. If their minds, because everything about Majdanek is so well thought out. It's not like they didn't have ideas. They thought out every detail very well. But what became clear to me is that they were completely severed from their heart. The heart was completely closed. That's the only way it made any sense on how they could do what they did. And then again, the connection became clear about what we're doing in Poland. And again, the images of the end. The one thing I have to say is there's no way we can describe what happened at the end of the concert. People, everyone from the concert got up on stage, all the audience, and sang, words they didn't even know, melodies they didn't even know, but with all their heart. And, hopefully a video will be produced and everyone will see it, but it was really a transformation. And the key, again, for me, and this was the inner process that happened within me, as well as what I saw happening to the people in Poland that Shlomo gave a concert for, as well as I saw with the German kids, was the opening of the heart. And Shlomo, no one does it better than you do. And that's why you can transform something from darkness to light. And thank you, Shlomo. Thank you.
But I had an agenda when I went to Poland, and I went with you, Rebbi Shlomo. I wanted to have different eyes. I grew up with a lot of prejudice and hatred comes from fear, and hatred comes from not knowing the other person, ignorance. And when I decided to come on this trip, it was a gut decision. It was not a head decision. And a lot of people reacted and said that's pretty impulsive and irrational. And I got reactions, oh, I hate the Poles, they killed my family, or my daughter was in Poland and they threw stones at her. And I wouldn't listen because I knew I needed to do this. And I believe that if you look for negative, you see it, and if you look for positive, you see it. And I came to Poland with you, Rebbi Shlomo, to see people through your eyes, and it was amazing. All I saw was love. Personally, I believe that the language barrier was a plus, because I think that when people talk and they get intellectual and they talk rational, you know, all this, they rationalize, and I think the fact that conversation was limited was really a plus, because it was about eye contact and smiles and touching and hugging and singing, and nothing else mattered. And in my life, I'm always interested, oh, and what country are you from, and what's your background? And I never realized that it came from a place of prejudice. And I always want to know, oh, well, you're from this country, so I'm not supposed to like you. And somewhere along the line, during this trip, it didn't matter anymore if the person was Jewish, or wasn't Jewish, or had a grandmother who was Jewish, or it didn't matter. There was so much love. I think the concert in Łódź for me was so special, because that's when I really started to appreciate the magic that you do, Rebbi, because I walked in and the people were sitting there like stones. I couldn't believe it. And it was a big theater, and there were a lot of empty spaces. And I felt personally responsible for filling up some of those spaces. And I was working so hard. I was really singing and wanting the people to participate, and it wasn't happening. And then we had an intermission, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to work so hard. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to enjoy myself. And I was just relaxing and enjoying the concert, as I always do. And I walked out for a minute to do something, and I came back in 2 minutes later, and the whole audience was on the stage. And I said to myself, how did this man do that? I don't know. And then it didn't matter. I just got up on the stage and joined them. And it was amazing. And by last night, the concert at the restaurant, I was high. I was so high. I mean, Michael said this morning, he said, you people don't need an airplane to fly. And we were so high. It was so beautiful. So yes, my heart opened and my eyes opened, and I'm really, I'm grateful. My life's changed. And, you know, Yashkaya.
Barbara could never do without you. Barbara has the loudest voice of all of them. Oh, yesterday, I kissed this tree. Looks like 100 years ago. Yesterday morning, I had to meet some people at the Victoria Hotel. And I'm standing by the door, waiting for the people after me. And a person walks in, looks very outstanding. And, you know, I never wait for people to talk to me. I got to talk first. I walk up to the person to say, who are you? He says, I'm from Amman, in Jordan. So I said, oh, you're my cousin. So we hugged each other, and it was, don't ask. I just want to have her to know that we have an open invitation to give a concert in Amman.
Wow. Yeah.
That's not it. And he says to me, I want you to know I live part-time in Amman and part-time in Kuwait. The weight is heavy, right?
Yeah.
He says, I don't want to brag, he says, but I have enough connection. It is very easy for me to make a concert for you in Kuwait. Can you believe? So the world is getting better. The world is getting better. You know, friends, there is no way of driving out hatred. You know, Rav Kook said it 1,000 times. You can only drive out darkness with light. And it doesn't even take much light to drive out darkness. One ray of light changes already the darkness. So, okay, I tell you what, let's go slow. Our most important guest tonight is really a very, very, very wonderful man. And I have no way of thanking you for coming. Last week, my beautiful friend. And I would like the Polish council to say a few holy words to us.
I would like to start from a rabbi sentence. What is similarity, not difference, between a rabbi and consul? Both are looking for good, not for bad. I am very happy be with you today and be with you a week ago when your departure to Poland. Because it is not only my due, it is my honor and pleasure to be contributor, supporter, co-worker of your good willing, of cooperation, understanding between nations, for your friendship, for your friendly attitude to Poland, and the number one of your music. This friendship, this cooperation, this understanding, in my opinion, is seeds of good, but also is seeds of God. Our God, the same God of Christian and Jewish. And I hope that fruits coming from these seeds are tremendous, are outstanding, and will be great. Thank you very much.
Well, just the other day, I got a call out of the blue from a man whom I never knew before, Isaac Buxbaum. And he sounded so sincere, so enthusiastic. How could I say no to this person? I had to respond. It was very short notice, but I knew I had to make the effort to be here. And you're right, I was not disappointed. I'm very deeply privileged to have been part of this night, sharing something very beautiful, sharing a healing process that really needs to be taking place. And I am deeply impressed to see that the Spirit of God is working here. That's beautiful.
Of St. Cyril and Methodius Church in Greenpoint. When I heard that Shlomo was coming back today, the whole purpose of Shlomo's trip was good relations between Jews and Poles, Polish Catholics. So I thought, isn't it appropriate that we have some representatives of the Polish Catholic community in New York? Because the point is not only to have goodwill in Poland, but we also need some goodwill in this country. And we should also be blessed after hearing, especially the people who went with Shlomo. I think everybody who's connected with Shlomo and knows Shlomo is aware that the kind of things that Shlomo's been saying tonight are not just to impress somebody. They're not just because he knows it's good and right. Like many of us do, we also know it's good and right to love people and to look at people with God's eyes. But we know Shlomo's not saying it to impress anybody. This is absolutely from the heart, And may God bless us that we can emulate Shlomo and reach the level where it's not obvious, I think we all know, it's not obvious that we're on that level. May we remember the way Shlomo looks at people and rise to that level. Also, I met a very extraordinary rabbi in the last week, a Reform rabbi, Rabbi Jack Bemberad, who's sitting over here. And I've told a couple people that I recognize spiritual people from my generation. They can be different types, but I sort of recognize what they speak like, what they look like. But I was so astonished to find somebody from the previous generation, an establishment rabbi in quotes, in a prominent Reform synagogue, tremendously spiritual person. I was so impressed and thrilled to meet him. And I wanted him to come down and see my holy Rebbi Shlomo. I told him about Shlomo. And it turned out, by divine providence, that Rabbi Bemberad is maybe the most prominent Jew involved in dealing with good relations between Jews and Polish Catholics. He's leading a mission to Poland on July 19th of Jews.
And in my small way, I've tried to do in an infinitesimal manner what you do so magnificently. I think when it comes to the relationship of the Jews and the Poles, there is so much hatred, there's so much misunderstanding, there's just so much bias, so much unwillingness to really see one another as human beings rather as stereotypes. And what I've tried to do is to transform that. I did that with respect to the Vatican in Prague. And the reason we're going to Poland largely is so that in a very small way, we may be able to further the work that you began. And so I'm privileged to be here. And I know that I'm speaking for Archbishop Keeler, who's the vice president of the Conference of National Conference of Catholic Bishops, and many priests that will be coming with us, and many rabbis. We're going there to try to find forgiveness and reconciliation, and we'll do our best. And all I can say is that I'm really privileged to be here tonight, and was deeply moved by what you said. Thank you so much.
Dear Rabbi,
If it's mere numbers, it becomes a stamp on your hand, God forbid. It becomes a statistic. Our numbers really stem from the following words in the Bible where it says, you count because you're somebody because l'mishpachosam l'veisavosam. Because you're a member of a certain family, you're a member of a household of a family, you're a member of your house. And to many of us, I didn't make it this time to Poland. I came on the first trip. The return to Poland in some way was a return to the home of our parents. I think the Jewish community, Hasidic community specifically, is familiar with every single little town in Poland as if it's, as Rebbi Shlomo said it, in the heavens it's the highest and the most glorified and greatest cities. To the Orthodox community, to those of us that are into Hasidus, the little shtetl, the little towns of Poland are the homes of our parents. And this is really, in many ways, where we come from. Jewish culture, Jewish spirituality achieved its greatest height in many ways in Poland. Sadly enough, it also sank to, I don't want to utter the words, but it was a very low period there too. And that was, for me, I should say, and I think Amy put it beautifully, the tensions of the highest possible experiences. And being there with Reb Shlomo was a reenactment of it, because we went to places last time like Auschwitz and Majdanek, and obviously our hearts sank to the lowest places. But then we were in concert with him, and then we danced with hundreds and thousands of people on stage. We looked into their eyes, and as everybody said it so beautifully, it didn't matter if they were Jewish or whatever ethnic or religious race, we were all brothers and sisters. It truly, for me, at that time, was a messianic feeling. And it's so proper that Shlomo is back with us now, the week of Bahaloscha, because this is the week that we're all a light unto the nations. And Reb Shlomo really, his whole message is to light up the world, that the world really see the beauty and the holiness of Judaism. And when we stand opposite the menorah, when we light up the menorah, it says, Ha'elad neraseha. All the candles, each and every one of us who are considered a candle, get higher ourselves. So I say going to Poland was not just a high experience for me to watch the Polish people being elevated, but to find elevation myself. To be spiritually inspired in a way that I've never been in my life before. And I just want to conclude by saying that there are several people that helped make this high holy event possible, and I think they all need to be acknowledged. Yitzhak Buxbaum, who worked really very hard to bring key people down, we thank you so much. Lindy Rickler, who really was overseeing a lot of it, and Sheila, our friend Christy, and most important, our Rebbiton, our Rebbiton, Mr. Magasa. I know I may have forgotten somebody who just joined by our president. So the spirit continues. Bahaloscha, Shlomo continues to uplift and to give us the light so that we really are a light unto the nations, which is what our mission is all about. Thank you so much.
And you don't know why you sleep. In the meantime, you wake up and you're less tired. If you eat and you don't know why you eat, in the meantime, you're less hungry. But if you live and you don't know what you're living for, you're dead. So we wish it to the Chaim, that means we should not only move, we should live, be alive, and know what we're living for. And the most important thing is our life should have a purpose. And our generation, the purpose beyond this world is to make the world better and to bring God's oneness into the world. Remember, we were learning so far religion, and this is for all religions, came to the world and taught them God's will. But we have not been privileged yet to really to teach God's oneness. So I bless you and me and all the holy people here. We should be messengers of God's oneness to the world. L'chaim. One second. Thank you many times for coming. And I just want to tell you something. You were learning from God Nachman and also just one Torah. But Nachman says, in the same way there are people who are homeless, there are also prayers who are homeless. Unanswered prayers are homeless prayers. So what do you do when you want your prayers to be answered? You take care of homeless people. Unbelievable. If you make a home for homeless people, then God makes a home for your homeless prayers. Unbelievable. I mean, this is the kind of a Torah that can carry you for a long time. And remember, I mean, you know it. Homeless doesn't mean you have to live on the street. The sad thing is, the world thinks homeless people are living on the street. Most of them, they have their act together, most of them. They don't have a home, but they have their act together. It's the people who live in big homes. And here, let me just share with you, he had the privilege in Warsaw to be at the grave of the Holy Amshinova. It was Mamash Yom Kippur, I'm telling you. Those two brothers, Mendel of Oke and Yaakov David of Amshinova. Anybody who was there with me? Shalom Alayim was Mamash like Yom Kippur was beyond. And here's the Amshinova Torah. In former days, people were so poor, they lived in one room. But there was enough space for them, for guests, for everyone. Then they became more rich, had bigger homes. There was no more space for guests, but they had at least space enough for the wife and their children. Then they became more rich. Was just enough space for them and their wife, but sadly enough, they had no more space for their children. Then they became even richer, and they don't even have space for themselves anymore. So, I bless you, the beautiful homes, all of us, but let's have a little home like we once had, you know, one room for space enough for the whole world. And thank you so much. Good Shabbos, and I think you have a little food left. Thank you so much.